Welcome back, everybody, to our day 7 of 21 days. My name is Jona, Bryndis.
And I'm Jeff Casper.
And we are airing from transCODES, energy healing and energy coaching. And our today's subject is going to be reflection. So on day 7 of your, as we call it, self-healing journey, offering you energy training lessons and healthy strategies, mostly for energetically sensitive empaths and awakening people here. We are nearing sort of the slump of our journey. So if we haven't lost you yet, if you're still listening, then know that we are aware of these ups and downs, and we talked about those ups and downs a little bit on first and second day. But before we get into all the deeper aspects here of consciousness and how to approach this in the practical, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for watching us. Please let us know where you're from. And also know that the reason why we're doing this live, which is a lot harder on us, is to interact with you. So please don't shy away. Feel free to comment, to ask questions. This always adds another dimension to everything, and it's beautiful what can come out of this. So for everybody watching the edited video, you won't be able to see the live stream, but there is a live chat going on here while we're airing those videos. Yes. All right, so we have looked into various aspects of the problem, okay? And the last 2 days we've introduced what we call higher vibratory solution, higher vibratory ways, which are not to be confused with like taking the higher route, okay? These are solutions that come from a different place, from within, and we've defined this safe place within as your heart, mind, or in a spiritual sense, you know, the bridge, the connection to your inner higher power. And so when we arrive at a place in our life where we have a hard time getting out of the stuckness of this moment or of this phase in our life, or let's say we hit rock bottom, or we go through a crisis. Okay, we talked about spiritual emergence yesterday, and I want to point out that spiritual emergence can be perceived as a spiritual emergency. All right, so at the very end of day 6, we talked about this pain, you know, this separation pain that we so frequently experience. And I want to make sure that you understand that this is part of our emotional reality. But we also talked about the fallacy of our perception yesterday, and the discrepancies that can arise in us through not being able to bring this physical 3D reality into congruence with our emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic reality. And this is where we want to go today with you. We want to go a little deeper and talk about how we can approach this process of piercing through the veil of you know, our matrix programming that does, you know, lead us to this fragmented view of reality. So pretty much every lesson here helps you to get closer to your true self, helps you to get closer to what you truly want, what you truly need, and also how you want it. But as you have already found out, when you don't really have I don't want to say realistic, but I'm lacking a different word. When you don't really have a good strategy for assessing your reality correctly,
that's a good word.
You know, for seeing it for what it is, all right, then there's too many mistakes in the system. And we've talked about programming altogether and how it comes that even though we already understand so many spiritual context, concepts or teachings, how it comes that we still fall into the same traps, or that we still sort of find ourselves sort of going around the same wheel. And the reason for that is this subjectivity of our reality. And in the past, or in the old paradigm, say, of science, and the old paradigm of social living, subjectivity was kind of poo-pooed, you know, as something, well, that's just how you see it. All right. In the new paradigm of understanding yourselves as energetic being, and this cannot be emphasized enough, it is very important that you understand the connection between externalizing your inner higher power and trying to be objective with everything. So we want to encourage you to actually go back, or go into that subjectivity for real, you know, for real, so that you can fully internalize your powers. Also, of course, some of the things that you cannot fully love about yourself. But in order to really see things the way they are, and to begin to proactively work with them, you've got to make sure that the way you're looking at it is not filtered through, say, your unprocessed or your hidden, or your sort of repressed stuff. All right, because that creates these filters in your perception, and therefore your subjectivity becomes more sort of irrational. So we're talking about a form of subjectivity. You could call this rational subjectivity, but really what it is, from, or how this feels from within, is to actually allow yourself to feel things out instead of figuring them out.
And using all your senses, not just the ones you can see and touch. It's really into that ability to focus on enhancing your ability to feel, because that'll actually give you more information and give you more opportunity.
Yes, and we've come across, you know, these terms false self and true self here in the last couple of days, and I want to bring in, you won't be able to fully read this, but in the edited video, I will zoom into this so that you can see this a little better. All right, and that's you know, how can you even identify true self and false self? This is really instrumental, and I just want to go through a few here for you. You know, like everything that has to do with being judgmental to yourself or to others shows, you know, an attachment to your false self. You know, everything that goes into victim, everything that goes into conflict, everything that focuses either on the past or the future, we covered all these things, you know, indicates that this is a coping mechanism that you've developed over the years, you know, to deal with reality, or to cope with reality, better say, and to protect your true self sometimes as well. So all these qualities here of the true self versus the false self, they can give you a little bit of an indication as to where, you know, your subjectivity may be irrational, maybe not, you know, the way it truly is. So I will send this picture in the edited version for you, so that you can actually work with this and use this sort of as a guideline. But what is it that we want to accomplish with all this talk? Okay, the first part is, you know, that what we just illuminated, you know, like, you know, to answer the question, what is actually real? Who am I? I mean, this is the question that we all sort of battle with all our life. And the only way to really approach this is to develop a regular discipline of self-reflection. But the self-reflection, if you think about it, if you're coming from a place of inadequacy or guilt or shame or fear, you know, then your self-reflection, of course, will be filtered as well. You'll see yourself as loser. You see yourselves as you know, not being able to do anything.
Not worth it.
Yes, yeah, so you have all this sort of grieve in you, you know, grieve about, say, you know, lost hopes and dreams, lost opportunities, and all that will then filter the way you actually assess your reality. Another deeper aspect here, you know, talking about the energetic impact of these things, is the inner fragmentation. And this is something here at transCODES and working with people in energy coaching and energy sessions every day, that we have identified as pretty much one of the pivotal places in a person's journey, which is identifying the parts of ourselves that we cannot fully love yet, that we cannot fully accept about ourselves. Because out of that fragmented view of ourselves, we are developing all these negative coping mechanisms. You know, we feel like we have to repress it. We feel like we have to run away from it. We feel like we have to numb it. We feel like we have to, prove the opposite or whatever. So there's a bunch of programs in us that are all rooted, not caused, rooted in our, say, inability to love all parts of ourselves. And so here I want to offer you a new definition, a new way of looking at your ego, which is supposed to align you to more compassion with yourself. In this quote, I say, our ego is nothing but a mental, physical, and emotional coping mechanism developed for dealing with the fear of the ego's end, you know, the fear of loss, the fear of dying, the fear of the end of all things, the end of its own existence, looked at from the ego's perspective. And maybe when you can connect with this, with your ego in this way, it can help you to not really come from a place of moral or social judgment about yourself and others for this matter, but to actually see the desperation in, you know, your own system having to come up with all these fancy and really tricky coping mechanisms that lead to all this unhappiness, to the fragmentation, and to more or less, you know, the lack of being able to assess, you know, your true options and your true desires, and also the tools that you have available, you know, the choices and the talents and all that we talked about in these past couple of days. So when it comes down to understanding the importance of self-reflection, then you will notice that it's really all about, you know, getting into this place of seeing yourself in choice, in power. You are the script writer, you are the director, you are the main character, you are the costumer, you are the decorator, you are the director of photography of your life. But we cannot feel this if we regret, if we have guilt, if we have shame, if we have fear, if we have anger, and if we have to deal with all of this unprocessed stuff that makes us not really fully wanting to be who we are.
Well, we can't be. We're stuck backwards or forwards. Yeah. So it's the whole purpose of getting to the present, being with who we are.
So walking the talk really means to go into a place where you are willing to absolutely and totally be bone-crushing honest with yourself. And I'm saying with yourself because this is, at this point, is something between you and you, if you will, between your false self and your true self. It is, you know, trying to strengthen this true self part in you, you know, so that you can better tackle the fragmentation that comes out of the false self and the ego coping mechanisms. But to start this process, you really need to be honest. This is sort of the main energy training technique here that we're introducing to you today, because without this honesty with yourself, you have very little chance, to actually come up with a realistic inventory of yourself, but also realistic assessment of what your options are and what your choices are. So understand that what we're asking you is not like a confession. What we're asking you is to go into a place with yourself where you look at yourself, this who am I, all right, from a perspective of, okay, let's put all cards on the table. What are the things about myself that I truly love, and what are the things that I cannot love or that I cannot accept? And then, of course, you will also encounter a group of things about yourself that and I say group because it's often very intricate, the layers of that you simply cannot see yet. And remember, the last 2 days we talked about not judging yourself for not being able to see this yet, okay? That's all right. This is why the homework will be to start a list for yourself with the things that you can truly love about yourself and the things that you cannot love about yourself yet. And it's an ongoing list, as you will find out. There will be things that you will that will come to you in a later process or when you meditate. And I just want you to add this. And then I want you to take those things that you have learned to love about yourself and move them over to the other side so that you can also see, hey, this is possible. I can change this. Yep. All right. But you need to start this list, and this list requires willingness.
And the bone-crushing honesty aspect, kind of like we talked about yesterday or 2 days ago, where as you begin to let go of all this tension that we have around keeping this false front up, all these resistances, all the ego programs and the coping mechanisms, even though it'll be tough at first, and it'll be, inventory is one of the toughest things, to go in and just say, this is my list, my reflective list of who I am fully, good and bad, ugly, whatever. It's tough at first, but as you do this, all of a sudden it takes away that pressure, that need to be someone, that need to be in a certain way for other people. You begin to be you. And even though that you may not like fully, it's at least you're going into honesty. And then you give the opportunity to yourself to be able to look at that, like Jona just said. You can go in and see, I can change this. It is possible.
If you bringing back the analogy with a movie, if you look at really good movies, one of the characteristics is that they have a really good character development, and you can relate to the main character, and you actually can forgive the main character, certain things that they did that may not have been according to your own values or whatever, because you understand, the character's point of view. You understand where they're coming from, like, say, if they're coming from trauma, if they're coming from a place of needing to redeem themselves. So I want you to really go into this perspective with yourself, and just look at, like, okay, yeah, I don't have to be able to tackle all of this here at once. I just need to be willing to look at this, because it reinforces certain things in you on a physical level. It reinforces the neural pathway to courage and taking action. And with that then comes a stronger sense of accountability for things. And guess what? The very thing that so many of us are so afraid of, taking responsibility for things. In energy work, we reframe responsibility into response ability. And now you may better understand why we talked so much about reacting versus responding. Because when you are, following the program in you, whatever has influenced it, whatever has caused it, outer aspects or inner aspects, you are simply, robotically doing your thing. And the very thing as long as you run that program, will always continue to present the same results. So anyone here, and we were kind of hoping that this is the reason why you came here in the first place, who wants to change, who wants to embrace change in their lives, needs to get past this not wanting to look at things. Yeah, and again here, I want to bring in the subjectivity of this, and I really want you to give yourself that space to maybe seeing it through your own colored glasses right now. That's okay. This is why you start your list, and you kind of keep this in your journal or wherever as an ongoing list. Yep. We'll work with this list later. All right, so take your homework seriously, because it will really help you to go into this more realistic self-reflection. And it will also take away, guess what? The fear of being found out. The fear of being judged from the outside, because guess what? And I know many of you are really good at this, but you take it a step too far and beat yourself up over it over and over again. But if you can look at things the way you are and you say, okay, yes, here, let's just take something that I cannot love myself for. I messed up. Okay, I messed up. I don't have a fix for this right now, but I acknowledge that I messed up. Okay, then you don't really need to be afraid that other people come and say, hey, you messed up there. Right? Because this is what we're really afraid of, right? You don't need to be afraid of that. Just here real quick on a side note, people say that they can barely hear us. Guys, can you please increase the volume on YouTube? There's something with the streaming code that lowers the volume on YouTube. Does this work? We gotta wait.
Yeah.
Till you hear our question. Can you increase the volume? Yeah, so sorry for this. This is not anything that we can really change here from our end.
No,
all right. This is something that you need to control with your player. This happened with the recording from yesterday as well. So I hope this works. All right. So this fear, of being found out, or the fear of being accused, is what puts us into this place of needing to hide, or needing to numb. So what it will help you to do is really to go into, the experience that you have a choice and that you can change your attitude towards it. Okay? So please understand that we are not asking you to make confessions here. When it comes to forgiveness, we talked about this. When was this? In day 4, I think.
And 6, I think. Yeah.
Just as a reminder, it's really important to understand that forgiveness is not a givingness. It is not something that can come from the outside. It is something that has to come from the inside. You have to be willing to give this to you. And as you forgive yourself, others will not even think about accusing you or punishing you, because they can feel, your own forgiveness. Now, just be careful here. I know people who take this too far and just do, yep, my fault, all my fault, all my fault, and kind of project this out. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a serious conversation with yourself here. All right?
It's being honest with yourself. It's accepting that you're human, accepting that you will make mistakes, that you will not quite do what you wanted to do, and that's all part of being a normal, healthy human being. And somewhere along the line, we usually forget that, and we go into, I have to be this way, I have to be that way, we get too rigid. So by going back to that forgiveness aspect opens up the ability to try, the ability to have courage and confidence in yourself, And then people will, like Jona said, they're not going to want to go there because they see that in you. They see this softness in you. They see this ability to do things and be okay with it. It's cool.
Yeah, so really what we're asking you to do is to align to the best of you, but not in a competitive way or in a righteous way. Okay, righteousness is part of matrix programming.
Judgment.
Yes. We're asking the best of you so that you don't need to dwell in these places where you don't have where you have the feeling that you cannot do what you want to do, or that you cannot love yourself fully, because this it really impacts your power to make changes. All right, and it pulls you back into the internalization. Sorry guys, some of you have audio issues and some of you are fine. There's nothing we can do here at this point. I will try to make sure that the recorded version is good in audio. All right, sorry for that. So part of the practical implementation will lead you to something that helps you to understand why I brought in the analogy of the scriptwriter and the director of your life, because we want you to get into this place where you feel that you can actually rewrite your story. And energy work allows us to go all the way, to rewrite parts of our story in the past, actually. This may sound a little woo-woo right now, but the retrocausality is something that comes out of the nature of energy work, because it's non-linear. So this is actually possible to rewrite some parts of your story in the past. Of course, you cannot make your memories undone, but you can make the energetic attachment around it undone. And this is what we're going to continue showing you in these next couple of days. The practical implementation for this energy training lesson on the physical level is to agree to facing something that you have always feared to do. It could be a tiny thing, okay? We want you to do one action that cements your willingness to face your fears. It could be a tiny little thing, like opening your mail that you have, not open because you're afraid that there's a bill in there that you can't pay, or like all whatever it is, that you can feel sort of as this monkey on your back, where you have to go into hiding, or where you have to go into like shifting your reality just so that you can cope with it. We want you to do one action. That's your homework, part of your homework. But whenever you run into these issues with self-reflection, then you can always start, no matter what phase of your journey you were at, with doing one action that faces a fear that you've had.
It activates courage in you, and what that does is it enhances your energy again, what we've been talking about. Yes. To help us face things, we want to vibrate above them, or past them, I should say. And what that does is, by facing a fear of anything, it could be karaoke, it could be whatever, you actually actively go into courage. And as you do this, it actually enhances your ability and your own ability just to go into these things and keep trying for it.
Yeah. On an emotional level, it is the hidden stuff, the repressed stuff, and the stuff that we often cannot really pinpoint. Okay, and again, you cut yourself some slack for it, but I do want you to understand that the hidden stuff and the unprocessed stuff in you is what creates the gravity into your false self-coping, into your ego. And we've illuminated that yesterday. And for now, it's really just about acknowledging those parts that you can't love about yourself. So on an emotional level, you can work with the emotion, of like, I really try to avoid words such as "I hate myself for." Okay, formulate this more in the sense of "I dislike" or "I want to work on, this or this about me." But the cutting yourself slack is important because it's not really about coming from a place of perfect. It's about coming from a place of, can I truly love all these aspects of me? Mm-hmm. If you leave them in the unprocessed and never face them, then, and we had a cool question yesterday in regards to dreams. Remember how we said that the majority of dreams is really sort of garbage recycling, mental and emotional garbage recycling. Then the garbage recycling can turn into massive, dominating fear, nightmare type of things. So yes, dreams are related to our ego, but only in correlation to how much of our emotions we are repressing and how much we're not wanting to feel, because that creates a lot of energetic garbage, and then of course it can dominate your dreams or your perception of reality, as we talked about earlier. On a mental level, I really want you to go into what it actually means to actively reframe things. Mm-hmm. And what can help you here is think of all the false beliefs that you had in the past. I mean, I can fill up a book with all the false beliefs that I had in the past, and this is a very
still coming.
It's an ongoing process, but here, this will prepare you to be able to actually sort of turn the whole coping false self-ego conglomerate in you, to turn this around and to see, okay, yeah, there were a lot of things that I did in the past that I can't do them anymore, or they really hurt me today, or they really contradict, how I see myself. But there are some hidden things in there that may actually be pretty cool talents. You may have just used them for the wrong reasons based on these wrong beliefs. So investigate your beliefs a little bit. We've made a few suggestions here throughout these days, these first 6 days, of where, you may have not really seen things through the glasses of what I truly want, say in regards to career, in regards to certain skill sets that you've developed, you may not like those anymore, but there may be something in there that can be used differently or in a more positive or in a higher vibratory way if you can accept that as part of yourself and if you can work with this. So this will prepare you actually to do something that we'll introduce here on day 10, which is shadow work. On a behavioral level, when it comes to forgiving yourself and really facing some of the mess ups that we had and the mistakes that we did in the past, or the perceived mistakes, right, and the perceived flaws, it is important that you put in you can add a column, if you will, to your self-reflection sheet that involves or that lists also the people in your life that are involved. Because if you believe it or not, these fears that we have, they often lead to certain people in our lives or groups of people that we are afraid of that they find out, or something like that, or that they would use it against us, or that they betray us. All right, and it's something that you will find a very important spiritual practice down the road. And that is to become aware of all the energetic ties that you have with people. And these energetic ties, in simple words, are basically showing unfinished business. So where do I have unfinished business? Are there people in my life that I really hurt in the past? All these become energetic ballast. All those become part of this garbage that we talked about that you constantly have to deal with. you know, either in clearing it or finding ways to maneuver around it or whatever. Basically what we're saying, you know, don't have that many unfinished businesses, you know, let go of these ties, and we'll teach you how to do this, so that the amount of exposure and the amount of garbage that you have goes down. All right, so this is where this is going to lead. Spiritually, we're practicing non-judgment here, and again, we've introduced an energy work technique yesterday of non-judgment and looking at things truly the way they are and observing your emotional and mental and sometimes also physical attachments to something. Continue doing this and always remind yourself that you know, it is not you, or it is not up to you to judge, you know, yourself. All right, you can judge some of the actions that you've done in the past. You can judge some of the intentions that you've had. But because you are a moving system, a growing and evolving system, you can change this at any time. So judging yourself for the past is really counterproductive. You know, go in and state your new intentions. Yes, I used to do this like this and it bothered the heck out of me, but now I'm not doing this anymore. I'm working on doing this differently.
And just know that every time that judgment comes in, it's trying to pull you back down. So that's where you can shift. That's where you can go into the heart breathing as well, because judgment can really pull us down. So it's a matter of catching it before it does. Yeah.
And that will be the energy work technique that we are showing you today, and that is to learn how to literally take a thought and clear it out, literally. And you may find this funny, but this actually works. And I really want you to do this here for a little bit and practice that. As soon as a thought comes in, okay, take it, grab it, throw it out, throw it behind you, and say, okay, thought, I see you there, but I'm not going to deal with you right now.
I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying it. So catching it before it can latch on, because every time something latches on, you're going to get pulled into the gravity of your own ego, of your own fragmentation, and so forth.
Yep. It looks silly, but it works. Works very well.
Yeah, so this is where we're going to leave you off here today on day 7. Tomorrow we're going to talk about how to actually make those kind of corrections, and how to tune more into the flow of this evolutionary process, or this transitory process in us. I want to point out the energy work transmission that corresponds here with day 7, and that is shadow work, of course, and also the sacral heart fusion. We talked about the heart mind, and the sacral heart fusion now adds all the repressed emotions to it and allows us on an energy work level to let go of this. Thank you, everybody, for your great comments. I hope that you could work out the audio issue here. Please smash the like button. Remember, this has to be done by every video, and share our videos. Come back tomorrow, same time, and let's talk about some of the practical steps of actually making, you know, productive corrections in our lives. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
you.